And, and finally, our last innovation talk of this session is Siim Sikkut, who is clearly a fan of just-in-time delivery because he just walked in. So Siim serves as an ICT policy advisor to the Government Office of Estonia. He coordinates ICT policy planning execution across the government, as well as advising the Prime Minister, and overseeing strategic innovation projects around e-government. Welcome, Siim. Thank you.
All right. So, although I might have just walked in, I was actually listening in. So, you had a very good overview of quite a few in-depth cases about innovation. So what I'll do as a sort of, let's say, end note to this great session is to perhaps go back a bit more general, and try to share a few insights that our government has learned from various innovations. So you get a few teasers. But before I start, who has actually been to Estonia from this crowd? All right. But who knows where Estonia is? Just checking. Okay. And I have one more question, so a bit more exercise. Who of you actually uses Skype? Great, you're all friends of ours. Because Skype just, in that sense, you already had a taste of what kind of digital innovation can come from Estonia, because it was built by our guys in the country. So, what I thought to share with you was exactly glimpses of various digital innovations. Digital innovation has been the key public sector innovation for us in Estonia, and I'll tell you why. So back in 1991, we restarted the government, the whole country actually, right? So we had to build everything from scratch, how we govern things, how we run the economy, how the society really works. Well, but at the same time, we are very small, as pretty much all of you know. So, but nobody gives you credit for being small. So even if you're the smallest country overall, you're still a country. You still have to run and behave like a country. You have your army to run, you have your parliament to run, you have all the services to run. So if you're small and you don't tax extremely highly like we don't, so what's your option? You get efficient. But to get efficient, what do? You get smart, hopefully. So at least that's what we figured out. So for us really, doing the innovation and exactly starting to rely on technology to get efficient was really the way out, to really sort of jump above our natural weight and size. And so what we've been doing, we've been effectively doing that for 15 plus years now. So we might say that basically out of that, we like to call ourselves e-Estonia actually these days. So Estonia is just the official title. So that just is to show you that we like to think that by this point, technology has penetrated the government, the society, the economy so much that actually we are exactly beyond just a country as such, but more like a digital society, more a digital country. So, but what has that really taught us in terms of public sector innovation? So I promised to share a few glimpses and insights. Well, first of all, where it all started from, it has a clear message that that innovation needs leadership. So to take you back to 1999, when we really started working on the digital government front, we had a prime minister who said, look, if we want the whole of society, and the whole of public sector of course, to use technology to the fullest, we have to show the way as leaders and politicians. So that meant already in 1999 that the whole cabinet said, look, we have to get rid of all the papers in our decision making. Let's put everything, how we work on cabinet and even prime minister level, online, make it electronic, make it efficient like that. That's how it's been ever since. So exactly it was about driving through example and providing leadership to really sort of exactly create and initiate a change in the whole of government that started to do the trick. Secondly, but what has been the role of our government? Never to do, or let's say center of government especially, never to do it all by ourselves. Sorry? It jumped a bit? Okay, sorry. So what we have seen our role, for example, of government CIO and government office where I come from, is to really sort of create an environment that others can then innovate on, or platforms for others to use. Here you see sketches of two things I will briefly talk about. One of them is that we have a nationwide digital identity system. Everybody has a digital identity card, now also a mobile SIM equivalent to that, that basically serves as my access to anything online and allows me to sign electronically in legally valid manner anything, any document, any file. This is a platform because again, this can be used in all the services, which means that actually if you want to innovate in your field, in your agency, you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, how do I get the users to authenticate? How can I establish trust for my service? Well, there's a platform for that. You just go and do your service. Same way with data exchange. The rather complicated picture you see is what even the kindergarten children know this in Estonia, by the way. It's called X-Road. X-Road is the core architecture of our digital country, which is the data exchange platform. This is basically the common layer, common platform, which allows us to share any data across any parts of government, as well as with the private sector even. Again, it's a platform that anybody can use and reuse if they want to set up a service, set up a new system, a new database. Point being, if you want to do something differently, want to come up with a new digital service, you just pick up these tools, plug and play, and actually do your service, not just go about reinventing the wheel and actually doing the same things over again. Plus, it's more efficient, less expensive for you. Exactly, you get to do the stuff much more quicker and better. So, and the whole idea behind the platforms is that our thinking has been, how do we enable bottom-up innovation? So I started telling that it started from leadership and sort of top-down approach for us. But the idea was from the start, let's lead by example, but enable everybody in the public sector to come up again with the best solutions that they know of. So example I have here is that, well, for example, we have an award-winning service that you can very easily, very fast, in 20 minutes, set up a company online. From 20 minutes from now, if I fill in the application, sign it away, in 20 minutes my company will be up and running legally again there. So, and again, all the sort of reporting and everything that follows from that is then done fully online. That service was a great deal bottom-up in a sense that, yes, it came from, again, minister had their involvement in that, etc., but it came from the agency and the ministry that was in charge of the particular area. So the point being, it wasn't the Prime Minister told, we should have this service. It was rather from the people in the field who basically designed it the way that it actually works perfectly now. Incentives. So leadership doesn't only do the trick. Incentives matter a lot. The example I have here, I already talked about digital identity that we use. Like I said, we sign anything and everything digitally. I personally have to think how my paper signature goes because we just don't use that at home. So I guess tomorrow at the hotel I have to give it a bit of thought how to do that. But the point is that, but how do you get something like that across the whole country? Again, the incentives. In the digital signature case, it was about that banks actually joined the government. We worked in public-private partnership mode and said, look, we will not allow transfers beyond 200 euros to be done by any other means than digital identity, the common platform. So the point was, immediately people had an incentive to actually take it up, start using it, because if you wanted to do transfers beyond that, well, that was the only way. So that's incentive for the users. But of course, incentives, when we talk about public sector innovation, also have to relate to the public sector in itself, like incentives to innovate for the officials. So even on that front, perhaps digital signatures is not the best example, but again, we have examples where, for example, agencies have been allowed to keep the money that they have saved through uptaking technology in their service area to pay better for the people, to employ new people, whatever that might be. So being, again, incentive created for the agency to really sort of keep doing their job better. But at the same time, the carrots and the good things, good incentives are not enough always, right, in all areas. So I have another sort of good case. We have been building a nationwide electronic health record for 7-8 years now. It really works as a platform that all the doctors now are subscribed to. Almost every one of us, Estonians, has some kind of record there. So the point is that we would have a common database platform where if I go to a doctor, again, they can pull my records from the past if needed. So, but the trouble is that everybody signed up, but not everybody sends reports in. So the question is that how do you then enforce that? How do you really again sort of ensure the uptake of innovation? What we see is that stickies needs to be there. So literally, we don't pay the doctors. We will not pay the doctors, actually. It's a change that we're planning if they don't send the stuff in. So again, sticks can also be brought to the games. There are rules and sort of tricks and regulations that we can be brought to the fore to ensure the uptake of innovation. Because without that uptake, I would argue that innovation actually is not there. It doesn't just take the idea, but you have to implement it and execute it and scale it. What else? When I talk, like I talk today, well, it revolves around technology. But actually what is our core sort of experience is that it's not about technology that much at all. And I guess the same kind of logic can apply to any kind of innovation area. And I'll explain what I mean. So tax declarations, this was already the talk here on the Q&A session just right before me. By the way, we also lower taxes. So you're not the lone one. So, okay, tax declarations in Estonia mean it's actually a pretty easy thing. It's not automatic yet. We're actually getting there. But the point is that you still pay whenever sort of exactly you receive a salary, taxes are automatically subtracted. So, but you still have to declare them once a year. 95% of people do that online, and actually it takes them less than 5 minutes, because again, the data is there anyway. So we just rather present it back to the people, and instead of just asking, okay, how much did you earn? Well, we actually do know. So we might as well just ask you, is that data correct? So something like a tax declaration, which can take weeks, lots of dollars, lots of accountants in many countries to do, for us is, well, I log in, review, next, submit, I'm done. I receive the money back. So, but the point was that we could have done it the other way around. We could have just put a form online with all the sort of empty blanks and said, look, please fill it in and send it in. And that would actually also be an e-service or digital service. But the point was that that would not have done much of the trick. The effect comes from actually rethinking the procedure and the whole sort of exactly the chain beyond that, just what technology can allow to do. Actually, the changing of the processes and how the government works with the technology is what does the trick. What else? We are very keen on cybersecurity. We have to be. The level to which we use digital and ICT in our government, we couldn't survive without that. We have been actually pretty much the first country who was attacked also on a nationwide level, 2007. And I'm proud to say we never went down. Because again, for us, cybersecurity from the early on has been something that we need to do this in order to do the other things, in order to actually innovate and use the technology. So the point from there, to me, is that actually when it comes to all innovation, there's risks involved. What is the usual response, especially from the dinosaurs, I guess, is that, well, hey, if there's risk involved, let's stay out. Hey, come on. We don't want risk, we don't like risk. Whereas, but actually risks are there to be managed. And they can be managed, even the worst technological risk like cyber warfare. But the point is that you have to do that actively, you have to plan ahead, you have to have the risk management procedures in place, and then it's okay. For us, that means that from the very point we start designing systems and services, we take a security by design approach. We start taking security considerations into the game, into the design. But the point is not to limit innovation, but to enable innovation, really. To enable, make us put things online and exactly offer services digitally as much as we can. Something we're trying to do now, over the years, Estonia has become very much a startup economy, a startup-led economy from Skype onwards. And but governments and startups don't usually get along too much in the sense that it's a completely different ballgame. So what we're trying to do now when it comes to digital innovation is trying to take a lot of this startup-like innovation practice and see, can that really work in government? Initiative that you see on the screen here is something we're very proud of and very excited about. This is actually about to be launched very soon. It's called e-residency. So we will offer the digital identity that we talked about to basically anybody who wants it from the world. You will be able to have our identity to access our services or the services the Estonian companies and anybody offers. If you want to do your things hassle-free and again set up businesses or sign digitally from wherever you are in the world. The point is, it will not be perfect from day one, but we intend to go live very fast, just like startups do, and keep improving with the users. There's also a bit of experiment involved. We don't know how, what the full extent of that might be, but we have an idea, what the first core values it can deliver. And again, we will keep building on that first core value, again with the users. So this is just a few examples of how we're now thinking that, can we work like a startup, start from very core scratch area, keep building on that, keep growing in the business, scaling it up, and be very agile in the process. Can that work in government? I don't have a full answer yet, but again, at least we have a hint that it might. And we try to make the best to work. Everything's not perfect, of course. So these are the sort of the success stories I brought up from the past, but I mean, I can also share that, it has not come easy. We're talking about, let's say, 15 years of experience basically here. So for example, a few things that haven't been perfect. So we haven't always been, let's say, constantly innovating all over the place. We had actually a few years ago sort of lots of feeling that perhaps the innovation pace has died down. That again, public sector is not coming up with new digital things as fast as everybody else or as fast as we should. There's still lots we should do down that front. Secondly, well, it's very easy for public sector to say, hey, let's make something digital. Let's just put something up online, and even if we change the process behind, well, how we talk to the users. quite often in the past not. But this is, I guess, a recurring theme in this whole conference. But we should, because we are doing it for the people. If it doesn't work for them, actually, again, is it really the value of innovation that we're doing? Thirdly, well, there's lots of great practices and pockets of experience and solutions and even code written in different parts of government. But again, to scale that into all areas of government is definitely a challenge. Again, us, like all governments, we have our silos to break on that front. And finally, well, everybody likes to measure effects, and like I said, I mean, incentives have a big role in the game. But again, every now and then, measuring what has come out of the innovation can be hard, especially if you otherwise don't have a great measurement system in place or across the government. So again, something we need to work on. But to me, that sums up to something that while we're trying to solve these challenges is that we are very active thinking, let's say, what's the right coordination or what's the right sort of governance behind? Of course, I'm talking about digital innovation now, but again, there might be something to sort of bear in mind for wider innovation scene. How do you really, from a center of government point of view, again, create the right environment, have the right incentives, get everybody on board to exactly have innovation going on all the time across the government, and actually not just innovation, that people tinkering with stuff, but delivering great new value, improved value. So for us, the response has been that, well, let's first of all have a few competence centers, or let's say core units within our administration that are in charge of exactly putting in short the best practices for that, spreading the best practices, spreading the tools. So we have a core digital innovation team under our government CIO. Another solution has been that in, let's say, center of government role, that government office where I come from, again, my role was not that 2 years ago. Okay? So the point was being, let's really sort of exactly bring in a bit more top-down kind of steering, soft kind of coordination to exactly push others to do more on that front. Again, these are the things we're trying. We don't have a perfect solution yet. In that sense, the conference is really valuable for us too, because exactly we get new ideas from you guys too. But we see that this way perhaps it can be done. And I mean, we have great stories to share in the past that we know that digital innovation can work. We know the public sector innovation can work. It has delivered us great efficiency in government. It has delivered us better services, made the economy more efficient. So let's just do it even better. That's the logic, at least for us. So having said all of that, I hope you had a few teasers. If you're interested for more, we have a few questions that we can take, and otherwise check out eEstonia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Siim. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Questions for Siim? There's one in the middle here. There's a mic heading your way.
Hello, I'm from, again, envious neighbor from Latvia, State Chancellery, Public Administration School. In our country, there is still a situation that even there are a couple of registers for the whole public administration, still there are up to 10 various IT systems each of the ministries has a separate. And around 2 years ago, there was attempt to make very similar system as you have, like a unified IT system where the all data, etc., is in one place and transparent, etc. And unfortunately, the project was sort of killed at that time. There was a lot of huge competition between IT companies and tender process complications, etc., etc. And officially, it was said it's too expensive for that moment. Truth is somewhere in between. My question is, how did you manage really to implement so huge project, but practically, because it is huge money, it is tender process. You want to have the best companies to do something and that's for years. It's not just for 1 year project.
Thank you. That's a very good question. First of all, I should say that also our digital government is actually a poor man's digital government. The reason is the solutions that we're talking about, because again, we've been rather investing in the shared platforms, not independent systems, in the end have been much cheaper and cost effective than most other sort of cases we see around the world. So you brought up, let's say, data exchange basically, right? This is the Latvian version as much as I know. So the reason why we came up with digital identity and X-Road was that we, about late 90s, when we just understood, okay, let's go digital. Everybody started coming up with, funding applications. We just didn't have enough money for all of that. And what we saw is that, okay, look, but everybody wants to do the same things. Exchange data or get somebody's data, authenticate the users, have a gateway, joint gateway to the systems. Why not have them shared? So basically, I guess you could say in this today's context is that, well, shortage of resources or money is a great driver of innovation, because that made us go that way. But okay, but that doesn't still mean that you're successful in that sort of direction. So I can sort of, I guess, echo or repeat a few things I said in my presentation too. First of all, we have never been really sort of fans of huge tenders, rather splitting them up and working sort of exactly sort of building them, scaling them up, let's say, bit by bit or piece by piece. So even if the system is not perfect at start, just like again the startup logic, but again, you build on that. You start from the core and you keep sort of expanding and scaling that up sort of technologically. And tender-wise too. Secondly, incentives. So we have incentivized at first, again 15 years back, different agencies to use the shared platforms. We even gave them a bit of money, for example, that okay, here's money for your servers if you join the X road. And sticks too as incentives. These days, you cannot set up a data exchange as a government agency if you don't use a shared platform. You just cannot. It's a rule, it's a regulation. So again, it's exactly these kind of principles applied sort of in combination is what have done the trick, at least for us, in that particular case.
So I have a follow-up question there in a sense, because it's notoriously difficult to do innovation within certain procurement cultures. How much do you in-house versus outsource? Would you say the primary effort is in this kind of sense of building internal startups that scale up?
Yep.
Is that the emphasis?
We outsource completely the whole part of actual development of software and hardware for that reason too, of course. So what we keep in-house is mostly what you can say project management. So somebody who basically, and architecture, so somebody who envisions the systems and procures them in that sense. And even procurement, the technical acts of that now are consolidated for the government. But we always work for the private sector, so we always work exactly for the best guys in the field actually doing actual coding, actual development of how the system will run. So, but again, it's a money thing. We cannot afford the programmers on our salaries and payroll.
That's a catch-22 there. Any other questions for Siim while he's here? Yeah, please.
That's one comment.
Impressive. I work in a department that has a hard time getting common platform within a department, let alone across the whole country. In many parts of the world, they would meet what you're saying with, like a citizen would meet with what you're saying with great cynicism, great, yeah, right, what's the other side of the story? And in some parts it would even be disdain because I wouldn't want the government to have that much information about me. What do you do about privacy considerations and ensuring that Joe Public isn't having his data used for other nefarious purposes?
Perfect question. That always comes up. So, first of all, I think what my main response is that, look, if you deliver value, people have less concern. So, first of all, but having said that, you have to work on the concern, of course, too. That doesn't give you credit that you can sort of slack off. Don't get me wrong on that. But still, the main point is that in Estonian case, people have been, let's say, not that sensitive at all about privacy issues because, again, the services that they have delivered for them, they understand that, look, if doctors actually share my data, I perhaps don't have to go to the next doctor's office. I don't have to spend that time. I can rather, be with my family, go do other stuff, to work, whatever like that. So that's kind of the benefit and sort of the efficiency that is made sort of really sort of vivid for them. It takes care of a lot of that sort of issue of sensitivity that otherwise would be. But having said that, like I said, you still have to work on that. So I talked about risks, how you have to manage the risks. So something like privacy or concerns of privacy are, let's say, parts of risks when it comes to digital government as far as we are concerned. So how we worked on that is, well, basically, like I said, you have to manage the risks. So when it comes to privacy, it's about, let's say, how do you set up control mechanisms for privacy to ensure that privacy is being maintained. For us, that means a few things, examples that I can share. First of all, we have built in that I, as a citizen or anybody who's a citizen, would have another overview of who has actually accessed or peeked into that data. So, for example, if a doctor looks into my health record, that actually would show up in my health record. If they had no business doing that, I can actually go into the data protection sort of procedures and mechanisms. We have had doctors laid off. Nurses fined and policemen laid off because again they were just looking into data they had no business looking into at all, right? So mechanism like that. Secondly, well, our system is that it's mostly what it's technically called opt-out. So by default, my data will be shared. But again, I would have control if I don't want that. So currently, no. Insurance company, because they are not part of that's a state health system like that, right? But basically, if you ask this way, if a political decision would be that, okay, let's now go into private insurance as well. We have an public health insurance system, basically. So if we went private, yes, we would probably start sharing that data, because again, it's needed for the service. But I, as a citizen, would then have a right to limit that sharing if I have a concern with that. So again, most people don't have the concern, like I said, because they get the value. But they have a chance to step back and say, no, I don't want that. So it's another mechanism to basically exactly ensure that it's protected if you care for that. But summing it all up, it's still then, like I say, there are ways to manage these concerns. Privacy and security are not the reason to stay away from digital government.
Thank you. It's so interesting hearing that Estonia is kind of a lead user in this sense. So if you have questions for Siim, then again, catch him afterwards. But for now, thank you very much, Siim. Thank you.